What if the single most powerful thing you could do for your life right now is not work harder, not wake up earlier, not read more books, not optimize your morning routine, but simply stop responding to people who don't deserve your response? What if the attention you're giving to people who drain you, distract you, and diminish you is the exact thing standing between you and the life you're supposed to be living? This is going to sound counterintuitive, maybe even cold, but stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand something about power, attention, and human psychology that most people spend their entire lives completely blind to. Ignoring people is not rudeness. It is not arrogance. Done correctly, done intentionally, done from a place of self-awareness rather than ego. It is one of the most sophisticated and powerful skills a man can develop in 2026. And the Sigma male has known this for a long time. Let's start with the most fundamental truth about attention that almost nobody talks about openly, right? Attention is the most valuable currency you possess. Not money, not time, not energy. Attention. Because attention is what converts all of those other things. Where your attention goes, your thoughts follow. Where your thoughts go, your decisions follow. Where your decisions go, your entire life follows. This is not philosophy, this is mechanics. And if that's true, then whoever or whatever controls your attention controls the direction of your life. Most men have never sat down and genuinely examined who and what has been controlling their attention. And if they did, they would be disturbed by the answer. Toxic relationships, social media drama, other people's opinions, meaningless conflicts, conversations that go nowhere, validation-seeking behavior that never actually gets satisfied. These are the things eating the most valuable resource a man owns. The Sigma male has examined this honestly, and what he has decided to do about it changes everything. The rule is simple, but the execution requires a level of self-mastery that most people underestimate. The rule is this: not everything deserves a reaction, and not everyone deserves access to you. That's it. 2 sentences. But living by those 2 sentences in a world that is constantly demanding your reaction, your opinion, your emotional engagement, your time, and your energy is an act of radical discipline that very few men are willing to commit to consistently. Because the pull to respond is powerful. It's wired into us. Someone criticizes you. The instinct is to defend yourself. Someone challenges you. The instinct is to prove them wrong. Someone tries to provoke you. The instinct is to push back, and every single time you follow that instinct, you hand that person exactly what they wanted from you, which is your attention, your energy, and your emotional investment. The Sigma male has learned to feel that pull and consciously choose not to follow it, and in that choice lives an extraordinary amount of power. Here's the psychology behind why ignoring people works, and this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Human beings are wired for reciprocity and response. When we speak, we expect to be heard. When we reach out, we expect acknowledgement. When we provoke, we expect a reaction. This expectation is so deeply embedded in social behavior that when it isn't met, when someone simply doesn't respond, doesn't react, doesn't take the bait, it creates a cognitive dissonance that is incredibly unsettling for the person being ignored. They start to question themselves. They wonder what they did wrong. They wonder what you know that they don't. They wonder why you're so unbothered. And that wondering, that uncertainty, shifts the power dynamic in the relationship completely. You have done nothing aggressive, nothing confrontational, nothing that can be criticized or used against you. You have simply chosen not to engage. And somehow, that is the most powerful move available. Think about the people in your life or in public life who command the most genuine respect. Not fear, not surface-level admiration, but deep, earned respect. Almost universally, these people share one quality. They are selective about what they respond to. They don't argue with every person who disagrees with them. They don't explain themselves to people who have already decided to misunderstand them. They don't chase people who are walking away, and they don't beg for the attention of people who are withholding it. That selectivity communicates something profound. It says that their time is valuable, that their peace is non-negotiable, and that access to them is a privilege that has to be earned, not a right that can be demanded. People feel that. People respond to that. And almost paradoxically, the less desperately you pursue people's attention and approval, the more naturally it flows toward you. Now let's get specific about the different types of ignoring, because this is not a one-size-fits-all concept, and the Sigma male understands the distinctions clearly. The first type is ignoring provocation, the art of not taking the bait when someone is deliberately trying to get a rise out of you. This could be a person online trying to start an argument, a coworker who makes a passive-aggressive comment, a friend who challenges you in a group setting to see how you'll react. The untrained response is to engage, defend, and prove. The Sigma response is to register what happened internally, assess whether it requires any action at all, and in most cases, simply move on without giving the provocation the oxygen it needs to become a conflict. Nothing disarms a provocateur faster than indifference, because indifference tells them that their move didn't land, and a move that doesn't land has no power whatsoever. The second type is ignoring the noise, the constant background hum of other people's opinions, judgments, unsolicited advice, and commentary about how you should be living your life. This one is particularly relevant in 2026 because the internet has given everyone a platform and a megaphone, which means the volume of other people's opinions about your choices has never been higher. Everyone has something to say about what career you should have, what kind of relationships you should be in, what values you should hold, what you should care about, what you should look like, how you should spend your money. The Sigma male has developed a filter that is almost ruthless in its selectivity. He listens carefully to a very small number of people. Those who know him deeply have demonstrated genuine wisdom and have earned the right to influence his thinking. Everyone else's commentary passes through him without landing. Not because he's arrogant, but because he understands that absorbing every opinion would make consistent, principled action impossible. The third type, and perhaps the hardest, is ignoring people who once mattered, walking away from relationships, friendships, and connections that have run their course or that have revealed themselves to be fundamentally misaligned with who you are and where you're going. This is the type most people struggle with the most because it feels like abandonment, like coldness, like betrayal of loyalty. But the Sigma male understands something important. Loyalty to a relationship that is actively pulling you backward is not a virtue. It is a slow form of self-destruction dressed up as a noble quality. Every person you allow into your inner circle has access to your energy, your time, your emotional state, and your mental environment. Allowing people who drain those resources to maintain that access out of guilt or social obligation is one of the most expensive decisions a man can make. Letting go is not easy, but the space that opens up when you do, the clarity, the peace, the redirected energy, is transformative in a way that is almost impossible to describe until you've experienced it. Let's address the objection that always comes up at this point, which is, doesn't ignoring people make you arrogant? Doesn't it make you disconnected and cold? Doesn't it damage relationships and make you someone that nobody wants to be around? And the answer is, it depends entirely on why you're doing it and how you're doing it. There is a version of ignoring people that comes from ego, from a desire to feel superior, from using silence as a weapon to punish or control. That version is genuinely toxic and it does damage, but that is not what we are talking about. What we are talking about is ignoring people from a place of self-respect and clarity, a calm, non-aggressive recognition that certain interactions don't serve your growth, your peace, or your purpose, and a quiet decision to protect those things. One comes from insecurity performing as power. The other comes from genuine power expressing itself with restraint. The difference is internal, but it is everything. The Sigma male who has truly internalized this rule doesn't walk around dismissing people or treating anyone with contempt. In fact, the people who know him well often describe him as one of the most present and genuinely engaged people they've ever spent time with. Because when he is with someone, he is actually with them. He's not distracted by his phone, by the opinions of people who aren't in the room, by the noise of 100 irrelevant conversations happening simultaneously in his head. He gives his full attention to the people and the moments he has decided are worth it, and that quality of presence is incredibly rare and incredibly powerful. The selectivity makes the engagement more meaningful, not less. There's also a deeply practical dimension to this rule that shows up directly in results. When you stop spending mental and emotional energy on people and situations that don't matter, that energy has to go somewhere. And where it goes is into your work, your craft, your vision, your relationships that actually matter, your health, your thinking. Men who have applied this principle consistently almost always report the same experience: a sudden clarity about what they actually want, a surge of creative and productive energy, and a feeling of momentum that had been missing for years. It is not magic, it is simple energy accounting. You had the same 24 hours before. You just stopped hemorrhaging resources on things that were generating no return and redirected them toward things that compound. In 2026, the ability to ignore strategically is becoming one of the rarest and most valuable social skills a man can possess. The world will never stop trying to capture your attention. People will never stop seeking your reaction, your validation, your emotional investment. The noise will only get louder, the demands will only multiply, and the men who cannot build a wall of selective, intentional, principled disengagement around their inner world will be consumed by that noise, not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, day by day, reaction by reaction, distraction by distraction, until they look up one day and realize that years have passed, and they've been so busy responding to everyone else's agenda that they never got around to building their own. The Sigma male builds his own. He protects it fiercely. He gives his attention only to what has earned it. And he does all of this without explanation, without apology, and without needing anyone to understand his reasons. Because he already knows the most powerful thing in any room is the man who cannot be moved by things that don't deserve to move him. Be that man.